In entertainment, heroes, or the good guys, can be seriously cool. They can have a likable and enjoyable character arc and backstory. There are many things you could say are cool about the heroes in a story, but what I often find to be far more cool and intriguing are the bad guys. A villain or just an antagonist in a story can be very interesting. Their backstory and motives for why they are a bad person can only add to the allure. One of my favorite examples of a really cool and interesting villain is Yoshikage Kira. Yoshikage Kira is the antagonist in the second half of Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He is a serial killer. He kills women and takes their hand to treat it as though it is his girlfriend. He has murderous tendencies, but he only wants to live a normal, peaceful life.
私の名はキラヨシカゲ、年齢33歳。自宅は森王町北東部の別荘地帯にあり、結婚はしていない。仕事は亀有チェーン店の会社員で、毎日遅くとも夜8時までには帰宅する。タバコは吸わない。酒はたしなむ程度。夜11時には床につき、必ず8時間は睡眠をとるようにしている。寝る前に温かいミルクを飲み、20分ほどのストレッチで体をほぐしてから床につくと、ほとんど朝まで熟睡さ。赤ん坊のように疲労やストレスを残さずに、朝目を覚ませるんだ。健康診断でも異常なしと言われたよ。
何を話しているんだとお前。
私は常に心の平穏を願って生きてる人間ということを説明しているのだよ。
He's got a steady job, he gets good sleep at night, and he properly entertains his bloodlust. I think there's something very interesting about this. He wants to live a regular, peaceful life, but he wants to do so while murdering people, quite often. It's scary, it's creepy, it's intriguing. And one of the most intriguing parts of it is that he succeeds in doing so for a very long time. He gets away with murdering people in secret for years, and is seemingly only stopped by bad luck. Bad luck in his possession, at least. After he is caught, he changes his entire face and identity. He lives in place of an entire other person just to maintain living a peaceful life. What Yoshikage Kira does is horrible, it's terrifying, it's disgusting. But along with that, and along with the way his mind works, it is fascinating. Kira is a very well-written character. He is one of my favorite antagonists of all time. Another one of my favorite villains is Garou from One Punch Man, in a similar way. In Season 2 of One Punch Man, Garou is the main antagonist. Garou was a pupil of Silver Fang, who was a master martial artist and the third strongest ranked hero. Garou has a vitriol against heroes. He believes monsters to be far better than heroes. That resonates with the point of this video, doesn't it? Garou's goal is to become the strongest being alive so that he can kill every hero ranked by the Hero Association. We see that he is immensely strong, but he still has a long way to go. His immense strength and his heinous plan is very cool. It is very interesting to watch his journey. I absolutely love Garou. He is one of my favorite antagonists ever written. This conflicts heavily with how cool the heroes are. Watching Season 2 gave me one of the truest neutral viewpoints on any narrative I've experienced. I simply could not decide whether I wanted Garou to succeed in his endeavors, or if I wanted the heroes to stop him. I don't want any of the heroes to die, but I don't want Garou to die or abandon his goal either. It gives me a very unbiased and outside perspective on both sides. There's another interesting aspect to this. Despite knowing Saitama will likely find Garou and kill him, and he can do so easily, obviously, it still feels as though maybe if Garou tried really hard, he could find success in his journey. There's another example of this, in a slightly different vein. That person is Dr. House. Dr. House is a character from the show House MD. He's the head of the diagnostics department in a hospital. In an episode of the show, you'll be shown someone randomly having a medical emergency while they are going about their day. They'll be sent to the hospital Dr. House works at. If House takes the case, he will diagnose the patient and assign them a treatment. This doesn't sound too out of the ordinary. but you must understand House as a person. He's not too concerned with helping people, rather, he sees patients as puzzles to be solved. Typically, diagnosing the patient is all he really cares about doing. In the episode All In, we learned that House is very torn up about a patient he had 12 years ago. The patient died before he was able to diagnose her with certainty. It wasn't so much about the fact the patient died, but rather that he was unable to solve the puzzle before time ran out. Despite this, he's not entirely unconcerned with saving his patients' lives. In the episode Control, House risks losing his medical license by lying to the donor committee to put an ineligible patient on the donor list for a new heart.
You're Dr. House. I found a picture online of you at a conference.
You need a heart transplant.
I run, I work out.
You cut yourself. Probably highly ritualized. You play the same Sarah McLachlan song over and over while you do it. Probably works better than antidepressants.
I don't understand how that...
You're a high-powered bulimic. You make yourself throw up. You have to find the most efficient way to vomit without revealing the telltale signs of bulimia, which is all very unseemly for a CEO. So you found a common antidote to accidental poisoning to do the job, Ipecac. Which is great if your kids just swallowed a bottle of aspirin, but really, really bad if it's a habit. In about an hour, there's going to be an emergency meeting of the transplant committee to discuss where you fall on a list should a new heart become available. Problem is, I am required to tell the committee about your bulimia. It's a major psychiatric condition. Ranks right up there with suicidal. Makes you a very bad risk.
So you're here to tell me I have just a few hours to live?
Unless I lie to the committee. But if they find out, I lose my medical license.
We can see that House is clearly a jerk to everyone around him. He makes reckless and illegal medical decisions, and he is generally mean and considerate to pretty much everyone. However, House is a really good doctor, and he is very smart. It is very interesting to witness the elaborate connections he makes using a patient's symptoms to reach a diagnosis. Clever people are inherently interesting, but it's hard to like Dr. House because of how nasty he is, and for some people, that is a factor that ruins the enjoyment of him as a character. That's something that really splits you. It almost feels guilty and unjustified to enjoy a bad person as a character at times. But you have to realize that's the point of the character's writing. You are meant to have complicated feelings about them. Difficult and conflicting attributes evoke indecisiveness when deciding your opinion on a character, such as House. I think that House is a really cool character, but I don't necessarily feel good about that. There's a certain character. A character who sets an example for other characters such as these ones I've stated previously. And this character has only recently come to my attention as an example. That character is Lapis Lazuli. Lapis Lazuli is a character from Steven Universe. She's had a very rough past.
It was thousands of years ago. I was only meant to visit for a short time, but I got caught in the middle of a war. It was awful. I tried to run, but I was picked up by a homeworld soldier and confused for a crystal gem and used as a tool. They'd ask me, "Show us your base. Where's your leader?" I didn't know, and I couldn't say, "I'm not one of them." It soon became clear that there was no hope in stopping the rebellion. All of the homeworld gems fled. In all the panic of escaping Earth, I was left behind.
Lapis remained trapped in the mirror for 5,000 years. This evokes a similar feeling as to what I mentioned in my drift away analysis. Imagine what that would feel like. Imagine how it would feel to stand in the same place for 6,000 years. You know what it's like to wait for something with nothing else to do, and to be alone with your thoughts. Your thoughts can last you a while before you start to get bored, but that's only like 20 minutes. What would it feel like to be alone with your thoughts and only have a decayed garden to look at for thousands of years? Truly, I can't even begin to imagine. Only this is far, far worse. If you were to stand in a place for a long time, at least you know you can go do something else if you want. But for Lapis, she's trapped. She is trapped and she cannot do anything but be trapped. As a result of this, Lapis clearly has trust issues. In the episode Barn Mates, Peridot tries to convince Lapis to coexist with her for them to live together in the barn. However, Lapis wants nothing to do with Peridot. She does not trust Peridot.
So tell me then, what you want from me, and whatever that is, I'll do it.
I want you.
To leave! Okay.
You see, Peridot and Jasper had previously imprisoned Lapis on a spaceship. Lapis does not want anything to do with either. But eventually, Peridot earns the trust of Lapis, and they begin to live in the barn together. Lapis also clearly has PTSD. In the song That Distant Shore, Lapis talks about how lovely she thinks Earth is, and how she would love to stay there. But then she says this.
Then I see the colors fading, gentleness of light escaping, shadows of my fear invading. Have I seen this all before? I know that there's something residing, a terror deep inside me.
I think this pose really gets the point across. Based on Lapis's behavior, we can see that she has anger issues, and as a consequence of this, she is abusive to the people around her, and she acts very selfish. Back on the episode Barnmates, Peridot tries to give Lapis a gift. It is a tape recorder, and it is very important to Peridot, but Lapis breaks it without any remorse. In this scene, we can see Lapis clearly does not care about how this will affect Peridot. She possibly even understood breaking the gift would be very hurtful. In the episode Raising the Barn, Lapis becomes fearful that the diamonds are coming to Earth. The diamonds are of very high royalty. Lapis wants to flee Earth with Peridot, and they decide to take their home with them. But right as Lapis is about to lift the two of them up off the planet, Peridot has second thoughts. She wants to stay on Earth. Lapis doesn't care, and takes the barn with her as she flees Earth on her own. Keep in mind, the barn is their home. It contains all the belongings of the two. That barn is their home. And Lapis just takes it as if it is hers. Lapis is so focused on keeping herself safe that she neglects to consider how the steps in protecting herself will affect her loved ones negatively. This selfish and hurtful behavior is something that heavily conflicts with the ability of many to appreciate Lapis as a character. That is understandable. These things can get quite frustrating, especially considering the fact they happen repeatedly. This is a heavy contradiction to the fact that Lapis is one of the most lovable characters ever written.
I just feel trapped. I just feel trapped.
Is this one about the thousands of years you spent trapped in a mirror?
No, I just really like that show.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. On top of that, Lapis does some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. Look at this scene. It gives me chills.
What? I've felt worse.
It is very hard to realize the awful things Lapis has done when you equally consider all the positive and lovable aspects to her character. Lapis is one of my favorite characters ever written, from her cool and lovable personality to the awful things she does. However, Lapis has a lot of character development, and by the end of the series, she's become far better as a person. Well, those were some of my favorite characters that are villains or just terrible people. A recurring thing with these characters is the conflict they evoke with your opinion on them. You feel guilty liking them as a character, but it's not like there's anything you can do about that. It's very interesting to take a look into characters like this. I hope you've enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making this. I'll see you later.